Hey, I'd like you to refrain from having your mom over every weekend. I boldly told my husband how I really felt. He sighed loudly. Lisa, you forbid everything. What do you mean? You don't want me to build a house. You don't want my mother to come over. You forbid everything. I didn't mean it like that. Then, what do you mean? How long do we have to wait? My name is Lisa. My husband Frank and I have been married for 5 years. We have one common goal. We want to buy our own home. Now that we've saved up a down payment, we're ready to move on from renting. The home I've always dreamt of. After we settle down, we want to start a family and raise our children in a home that we can call our own. Such hopes were growing, but a dark cloud looms over us. My mother-in-law, who had heard about our plans to buy a home, began to make some suspicious moves. I heard you're finally buying a home. Yes, that's right. Have you already decided on what kind of home you want? Yes, I have an idea of what we want. Well, that's great. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, have you been to the showroom near your house? No, we haven't been able to get an appointment there yet. Well, I'll make an appointment for you. We can go together. No, I would like her to refrain from it. I want to inspect the new house with my husband alone. But after that, my mother-in-law kept trying to get involved in our choice of property. She even made unannounced visits. I got you a brochure of land for sale. Thank you very much. My mother-in-law had a dozen of leaflets in her hand. How about this one? It's close to the station and big enough for 2 families. What did she say? Did she say 2 families? I was unable to say anything, and my mother-in-law kept on talking. If the train station isn't close by, it's not convenient for anything. And you better be close to a hospital for when you get old. This property is close to a supermarket. You already have a hard time deciding which one to choose, don't you? At first, she asked if there was anything she could do to help. But before I knew it, my mother-in-law was taking the lead in choosing the house. She's pushing her wishes based on the assumption that she'll live there herself. This is not good. I told my husband everything that had happened that night. Oh, I think she might have mentioned something about living together. What? You want to move in together? Yeah, well, if you will let her. I won't force you, don't worry. I'm feeling a little blindsided by the statement of my husband. If I let her? I don't think so. I can't believe my husband would continue to dilly-dally. I'll be the one who gets the bad end of the stick when I finally tell my mother-in-law that we're not going to live together. Why can't he realize that? Shall we stop building the house? What? Why? Because the way you said it. If I choose not to live with her, she'll know I said no. We're going to be together for a long time, and I don't want things to get awkward. I don't want a house if that's what it's going to take. I can raise my kids in a rental. And we can use the down payment we saved up for our children's education. Then my husband clearly started to panic. Wait a minute. I get it. I'll say no to her and we'll build a house. No, that's fine. You can't even talk to your mother. I've never seen my husband speak up to his mother. Don't worry, trust me. Why are you so desperate? I want to live in my own house and raise my children there. You weren't so enthusiastic when we talked about that. No, I was excited. That's a horrible thing to say. I feel the same way about our children. I see. My husband told me that he would turn down his mother, but I thought it would be impossible because of his personality. But the day after we talked about it, my mother-in-law stopped bothering us, and she apologized to me over the phone. Lisa, I got scolded by Frank. He told me that he wanted to live with you alone. I'm sorry I pushed my opinion on you. My husband really talked to her. He could speak up when it was really needed. But I wonder why I was still suspicious deep down. I told my husband about my mother-in-law's apology, and he had a very satisfied smile all over his face. You see, when I say I'll speak up, I'll do it. What's that look in your eyes? I was wondering if you really said it. Are you doubting me? Isn't that awful? I haven't seen you speak up to your mother in 5 years. And it's not like you actually said it in front of me. That's terrible. I tried so hard. You're right. I'm sorry. I mean, you're sweating like crazy. Why is that? Oh, it's hot. It's kind of hot today, isn't it? It's the middle of winter. By the way, let's get the contract on the house. You want to build a house so bad? Of course I do. That's what we've been saving up for. At this point, I was no longer interested in building a new house. My own home that I had dreamt of so much. I worked so hard to save up the money. But because of my mother-in-law's behavior and my husband's attitude, I felt as if the ladder had been removed, and I took a step back. In the meantime, my husband kept saying that he wanted to build a house. 6 months had passed since the dispute. My husband kept on talking about the house, but I was still not convinced. And my mother-in-law, who had been quiet, had reached the end of her patience. She began to appear at her house frequently. She never talks about buying a house, but her attitude is becoming more and more arrogant. My husband and I both work, and we both have weekends off. My mother-in-law comes to our house every weekend these days. If it was once a month, I could deal with it. But if she comes every weekend like this, I don't feel at ease. My husband seems to be very happy. I'd like to take a rest at least on Saturdays and Sundays. But my mother-in-law comes to our house at 7 in the morning and watches TV with a very loud volume. When I don't get up, she walks back and forth in front of my room. My husband is busy taking care of my mother-in-law, so that should be enough. When I couldn't stand it and got up at 7:30, my mother-in-law would say, "How can you sleep in when you have a guest over?" And she stays until late on Sunday night. My husband doesn't say anything about her behavior. And when I look at him, the word divorce comes to my mind. But I want to avoid divorce if possible. I wanted to talk about what I could do to make things better. Hey, I want you to refrain from having your mother over every weekend. I boldly told my husband how I really felt. Then he sighed loudly. Lisa, you forbid everything. What do you mean? You don't want to build a house. You don't want my mother to come over. You forbid everything. I didn't mean it like that. Then what do you mean? How long do we have to wait for? You just said we. What do you mean? Who else is waiting? What? Didn't you just say we? My husband's face flushed and he started sweating profusely. I didn't say that. Then maybe I heard you wrong. We can't build a house with your mother coming over every weekend like this. Why not? Because I can't rest. If my parents came to stay over every weekend, would you be able to get some rest? Your parents won't come. They have such a nice house. I'm sick and tired of this nonsense. That's not the point. I don't care about the house. I'll ask my parents to stay with us next week. Then my husband raised his voice. Absolutely not. Why not? Because it's too tiring. Don't tell your parents to come over. My mother is the only one allowed here. This is my house too. I'm the head of the house. If you can't do what I say, then get out. Are you serious? You're no use to me at all. I'm done with you. You can't make my mother happy. And she can't live with us if we can't build a house. You promised she wouldn't live with us. What are you talking about? Once the house was built, we could do whatever we wanted, including living with my mother. What do you mean? I told you this much, and you still don't get it? I was going to invite my mother in when the house was built. I knew it. How could my mother-in-law back down so easily? My husband was just plotting with her. I see. That's what this was all about. Okay, I'll leave. I hope you won't regret it. Of course not. Don't even show your face in front of me again. I took the bare minimum of my belongings and headed for my parents' house. My parents were surprised at my sudden return, but when I told them what had happened, they welcomed me warmly. That's what family is all about, right? I guess our relationship was ruined when I couldn't trust my husband at the beginning. Dad, I'm sorry. I know things didn't work out between you two, but work and personal life are two separate things. Yes, I agree. And my husband and I are divorced. No alimony claims against each other. No money disputes, just the division of property. But 3 months have passed since then, and my ex-husband is now on his knees on the ground in front of me. I'm sorry, father-in-law. I'm not your father anymore. Be careful what you call me. Boss, this is a left turn, isn't it? Because I divorced your daughter? What are you talking about? Why did my ex-husband come all the way to my parents' house and get down on his knees? It's because he got an unwanted transfer. My ex-husband and I are employees of my father's company. He seems to think that he was transferred because of our divorce. But his transfer has nothing to do with the divorce. My father said during the divorce that private life had nothing to do with work. Every employee of his company is assigned to a regional assignment for a few years. But it's for the purpose of improving their skills, and none of them were ever transferred as a punishment. But that doesn't seem to make sense to my ex-husband. Lisa, stop the boss. I thought you told me never to show my face again.
I apologize. Please.
No, this is not a relegation.
I was the next president at one point, wasn't I?
I can't believe you just interrupted me and said nonsense. You know what? I think you're mistaken. I'm the next president, whether you divorce me or not.
What?
Of course, I'm his daughter. My ex-husband nodded and disappeared from our house. And the next day, he submitted his resignation. People around him told him it wasn't a relegation, but he wouldn't listen to them. A few days later, my ex-husband was found in an unexpected place. I was casually watching a documentary program on the TV, and my ex-husband was on the program. One of the people standing in line for a meal donation at a volunteer organization, poorly dressed, was my ex-husband. You never know what life has in store for you. I thought of the word regret that I said to him in a bitter way. I'm sure my ex-husband regrets his actions. The fact that he was holding two of the meals in his hand suggests that one of them was for his mother. I don't have all the details, but it seems certain that he's living a life far removed from the one he had before. And I'm currently enjoying being on my own. I'm busy with work during the week, but on my days off, I enjoy my time. It's a blessing to be able to get a good night's sleep. I don't have to be slammed in the morning anymore. I live in such happiness.
It's the coldness of her ex-husband which she couldn't explain to people that made her suffer. I'd love to have it as a shield when I say no to my in-laws. Lisa, you did a great job. I hope you can enjoy your time on your own now.
We talked for a few more minutes, but the smiles faded from my husband and mother-in-law's faces.
Laura, are you all right?
What?
No, it's nothing.
My husband asked me impatiently. Obviously, he must have plotted something. Then my mother-in-law suddenly stood up. Ouch! Ow! My mother-in-law rushes into the bathroom, holding onto her stomach.
Mom, what's wrong with you?
Why do I have to have this much pain in my stomach?
This can't be. Laura, you didn't switch the tea, did you?
I did. Me and your mother.
Why did you do that?
What's wrong if I switched? My name is Lara. I'm a 30-year-old office worker. My husband Joshua and I have been married for 2 years. We met through work. My current husband is a mid-career hire from a client I was working for. At first, he was new to the company and didn't seem to be getting used to the job. But the next time I met him, he seemed to have gotten used to it. I thought he was a smart man. Eventually, we got closer and we started going out on dates and for dinners. He confessed his feelings for me and we were officially dating. After that, our relationship went smoothly. He proposed to me and we got married. I think our newlywed life was going very well. My husband is not a good cook, so I was always cooking. In return, he did the cleaning and laundry. He also took the initiative in taking out the garbage, which was really helpful. But recently, he has been acting differently, or rather, his attitude towards me has changed. He used to follow me everywhere I went, and he always wanted attention from me when we were at home. I had to tell him to be patient with me. It was as if I had to train him like a puppy, but nowadays, he rarely spoils me like that.
He used to talk to me in a sweet voice. Lately, he's been rather cold. What's for dinner? It's hamburger, your favorite. Okay. That's not much of a reaction. I went to the trouble of making it for my husband, but even after that, his reaction was cold. It's as if he's not interested in me. He was so kind to me in the beginning. I hope one day he will be kind to me again. And not only my husband, there's another person who is bothering me. My mother-in-law. My mother-in-law has been picking on me since the beginning of our marriage. Hey Lara, why didn't you prepare snacks? I'm sorry to hear that, but you visit us out of nowhere. Normally, you'd expect it and have it ready. No, that's impossible. Until now, my husband has been taking my side and talking back to my mother-in-law. Lately, my husband has joined her in attacking me. I really don't think Lara is considerable, do you? It's a wife's duty to be prepared for whenever my mother comes over. You never know when I'm going to leave you if you continue like that. He says things like this, and my husband makes threats of divorce. I'm upset because he wasn't like that before. I feel a mixture of sadness and still wanting to trust my husband. Then one day, the unbelievable happened. One weekend, my mother-in-law came to her house. For some reason, she brought tea and sweets that day. She brought an expensive-looking tea and talked happily to me. I went out of my way to buy the finest tea I could find today. Let's drink it together. I don't know. Why is she so kind to me? It's like there's some kind of malice in it. And my husband said, Thank you, Mother. I'll make the tea today then. Lately, he's been telling me, Hurry up and prepare the table. My mother is waiting. Why is he being so kind to me today? While I was feeling uneasy, my husband brought me a cup of tea with a grin on his face. Wow, it smells so good! My mother-in-law said as she put her face close to the tea. I was a bit skeptical and moved my face closer to the tea. It smelled like a regular tea, but there's something strange like bubbles floating in the tea. This is definitely not good. I think I should not drink that, but what should I do? I wondered if there was any way I could replace this tea. Oh, that's right, mother-in-law. Your favorite Korean singer was on a music show the other night, and I recorded it. You can watch it if you like. Oh, really? I'll watch it right away. Then my mother-in-law went to get the remote control. Oh, isn't there any snacks? You made tea, but you forgot to prepare the snacks. I told my husband. My husband is a bit arrogant, so he's easily provoked. I was just about to do it now. Wait a moment. My husband said and went to get the plates and the snacks. I replaced my tea with my mother-in-law's tea the moment they were looking away. Then they both came back to the table. Well, let's have some tea, shall we? Well, it's a fine cup of tea, isn't it? My mother-in-law and my husband began to drink their tea, and they watched me carefully as I sipped it. It certainly tastes different from the usual, I commented. My husband and mother-in-law have a grin on their faces. I know it's different. Yeah, it's delicious. My husband and mother-in-law laughed out loud at my comment about it being delicious. Oh yeah, it's good. I'm sure they put something in it. I said, "Yes, it's very good," and drank all the tea. My husband and mother-in-law were still grinning. We talked for a few more minutes, but the smiles faded from my husband and mother-in-law's faces. "Lara, are you all right?" "What?" "No, nothing." My husband asked me impatiently. Obviously, he must have thought it something. And then my mother-in-law suddenly stood up. "Ouch! Ah!" My mother-in-law rushed into the bathroom holding onto her stomach. Mom, what's wrong with you?" "Why do I have this much pain in my stomach?" "Oh, no way." "Hey, Lara, you didn't switch the tea, did you?" "I switched. Me and your mother's." "What? Why did you do that?" "What? What's wrong with switching? Does that mean there was something bad in the first tea you served me?" "No, it's just that." "Tell me the truth. Otherwise, you won't be able to handle it properly and your mother will be in danger." As I said that, he told me the truth. "I had actually planted a large amount of powdered laxative in your tea." "Huh? Of course you'd get an upset stomach if you did that. And in large quantities, it could be fatal." "Really?" "Call an ambulance." "Oh, okay." That's how my mother-in-law was carried away on the ambulance. My husband was very upset and rushed to accompany her. I decided to put the tea that my husband had planted laxatives in a water bottle and saved it as evidence. I'll take this to the police and file a report. While my husband and mother-in-law were at the hospital, I decided to pack up my belongings. I called my parents' home and asked them to help me move my belongings, and I went to my parents' house. When I arrived at my parents' house, I got a call from my husband. "My mom is in danger. She's in pretty bad shape. She has to stay in the hospital for a few days. So I need you to bring her a change of clothes and some other things, okay?" "Huh? What are you talking about? Of course I don't want to do that." "Hey, you can't do that. My mom's in trouble. You're my wife. You should at least do that." "I can't be with you anymore. I'm divorcing you." "Divorce?" When I said the word divorce, my husband was silent for a moment, then said, "I see. If you insist on divorcing me, then I don't have a choice. But you're the one who asked for the divorce. You don't get a share of the property." "What are you talking about? You're the one who caused the divorce. So I'll take what I can get." "Don't be ridiculous. I'm not paying you a dime. The divorce was your idea. It's not my fault." I'm disgusted. You're the one who tried to force me to drink a cup of laxative tea in the first place. How can you think that you're not at fault? Besides, I have a big weapon against him so that he would be punished. But before I could mention it, he hung up on the phone. Well, I have a lot of things to do, like arrange a lawyer, so I'll let it go for now. After that, my husband asked me why my stuff is missing in the house. He says the house is falling apart because I don't do the chores. I got a lot of unreasonable and selfish messages. No, you're willing to divorce me, aren't you? Do you understand that you have to take care of the house by yourself once we are divorced? There are so many aspects I wanted to make him clear, but I didn't respond to my husband until after I had arranged for a lawyer. Then my mother-in-law got out of the hospital, and my husband and in-laws came to my parents' house. My husband and in-laws are in a bad mood. Divorce is not an option, but I'll comply. You didn't even come to visit my mother in the hospital after what happened to her. You just got out of her house, taking your belongings. How can I stay married to a woman like that?
My husband said in an arrogant way. My mother-in-law kept on giving me a nasty look. And it seemed that my husband and mother-in-law told the whole story only from their point of view. So my father-in-law believes my husband's story.
Lara, I think you're being a little selfish.
My father-in-law is the only sane person in my husband's family. I'm sure he would think that if we were told only my husband's side of the story. I took out my phone and played an audio clip.
I had actually planted a large amount of powdered laxative in Lara's tea.
In many ways, the audio was a solid evidence. As soon as they heard this audio, my husband and mother-in-law's faces turned pale.
How did that conversation come about?
My husband had dug his own grave. Father, I felt I was in danger. I quickly replaced mother-in-law's tea with my own. Then mother-in-law suddenly got a stomachache. She has always been bullying me. And my husband used to be angry with my mother-in-law for that. But recently, they started attacking me together. And finally, he crossed the line. After hearing my explanation, my father-in-law had a furious look on his face and glared at my husband and mother-in-law.
Hey Joshua, what's going on? Is it true that you were bullying her too?
My husband and mother-in-law were embarrassed when my father-in-law confronted them.
No, wait, Dad. This was just for fun. Lara got sick to her stomach and I was actually planting laxatives in her tea. It was like a fun surprise, you know? And I would of course not bully her.
Neither would I. I was just joking with her. And you would call that bullying? I don't know how much of a joke they are. Don't think you can get away like that forever. This is why Joshua has been so horrible to me, isn't it? I took out an envelope and put its content on the table. It was the photographic evidence of the affair of my husband that I got from the hired detective agency. My husband's face turned even more pale.
Why?
Did you think I didn't know anything? Your attitude was so cold that I thought it was suspicious and hired an investigation agency. I never thought you were really having an affair. You're probably just trying to harass me and get me to initiate a divorce. Apparently, I had hit the nail on the head because my husband was breaking out in a cold sweat. I confronted him with the divorce papers to finish him off. No matter how stupid you are, if you're confronted with divorce papers in this situation, you know you're at a disadvantage, don't you? Of course I'll get alimony, and I'll also get a fair share of the property. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to report you for assault for planting the laxative.
Huh? The police?
Wait a minute. Don't you feel sorry for Joshua?
Huh?
What are you talking about? It's not just my husband. You, mother-in-law, are just as guilty. He was cooperating with you. Huh? Wait a minute. Why am I even supposed to be arrested? It was Joshua who planted the laxative.
Mom, you came up with this plan. Don't you dare try to put this only on me.
What? You asked me to help you because you found a new potential wife. My husband and mother-in-law started to fight. Neither of them would admit their guilt. They were scums. Finally, my father-in-law got fed up and snapped.
Enough! You both committed a crime. Give it up and take responsibility together. Don't complain when the police take you away. And Joshua, you need to take responsibility for the affair. Pay Lara the alimony she deserves, and she'll get your share of the property. My husband and mother-in-law were completely freaked out by the sound of my father-in-law's angry voice. I'm glad my father-in-law snapped first because my father was about to lose his temper too. I said, let's go through the lawyers to deal with the rest of this. So I told him to sign the divorce papers as soon as possible. My husband was reluctant to sign the papers, but my father-in-law yelled at him again, and he signed them finally. I'm truly sorry for the trouble my stupid son and my stupid wife have caused you. I apologize. My father-in-law said that to us and took my husband and mother-in-law home. After that, I filed a claim for alimony with my ex-husband and the adulterer through my lawyer. I received $30,000 from each of them. Then I filed a police report against my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law for assault. I submitted the audio of my husband intentionally planting a laxative and the tea that was made at the time of the incident. So they were arrested. They were both fined. Incidentally, my ex-father-in-law was so disgusted with my ex-mother-in-law, he left her and asked for a divorce. So my ex-mother-in-law had to work and pay the fine herself. But since she and my ex-husband are trying to stab each other's backs, my ex-mother-in-law can't even rely on her own son. She's currently working part-time for a low monthly salary to pay the fine. As for my ex-husband, his adulterer was pissed off at him for lying that they could get married without causing me any trouble. She snapped at my ex-husband, and my ex-husband promised to pay the affair partner's alimony instead. So he borrowed money from a consumer loan and paid the affair partner's alimony to me in one lump sum. At that moment, the adulterer disappeared. In short, my ex-husband was abandoned by both me and the adulterer, and he was left with a huge debt. He really deserves it. On the other hand, I got what I wanted, and my share of the property was secured, so I'm relieved. I'm currently living in an apartment by myself, and I'm working hard. And just recently, I got a promotion. I'm thinking of taking a trip with friends or my parents to celebrate. It's a crime to intentionally make someone drink tea containing laxatives, isn't it? It's not a joke. The husband and mother-in-law should go to the bottom of hell. At any rate, I'm glad that the father-in-law was a decent person who understood what Lara was going through. It was a disaster this time, but I hope Lara will find a wonderful person in the near future.